Welcome to the third Digital Teaching Symposium. I'm Dr. Rob Robinson, and I'm excited that you've decided to join us. We have a great day planned for you, and we will cover topics designed to help you navigate the what's next in digital teaching. Many of us have been through tough times over the past year and a half between balancing teaching from home using technology and working with students in a virtual environment. Well, it can all be challenging. At this point, most of you may have returned to in-person teaching again or have had to adjust to teaching via HyFlex or hybrid environments. That's exactly why we're hosting this information-packed symposium, to help you navigate the uncertain waters ahead. As you may have heard, Blackboard has recently merged with Anthology. We're excited about the future, and we're working towards becoming a comprehensive portfolio of teaching and learning, engagement, administrative, and student success solutions. Much more exciting developments are coming, so stay tuned. Our students come from all walks of life and backgrounds, and they have important stories to tell us. They leave their digital footprints in our systems. That data gives us important insights that empower us to support their academic journeys. By responsibly leveraging that data, we can enable insights and information at the right time, in the right way, and supporting the right actions. We can and must help learners and institutions improve, with data privacy and security at the forefront of our approach. I'd like to take a moment and thank all of our speakers today for sharing their wisdom and experience with us, as well as our sponsors. Respondus, Blackboard Academy, we couldn't do this without them. Just a few reminders as we get going. If you miss any sessions, they're being recorded and you can view them here until the end of November. Don't forget to join our Blackboard community site so you can connect with people after the event. The conversation doesn't have to end after today's session. Finally, if you're tweeting today, and we hope you are, use the hashtag #DigitalTeaching2021. Now, it's my great pleasure to introduce our keynote speakers. Dr. Newton Miller currently serves as the lead faculty in the Education Studies program at the University of Arizona Global Campus and is the author of Why Some Seeds Don't Grow, a book that sheds light on high-impact principles needed to enhance the educating, mentoring, and parenting of urban youth. Newton Miller has taught and provided leadership across multiple Title I schools. Throughout his career, he's developed a passion to ensure every student has equitable access to their dream. Let's please give a warm welcome to Dr. Newt and his son, Newton.
Here, let me get off mute. I guess that's it. It has to happen once, right? So I got that one. So we're so happy to be here, you guys, today. Thank you for allowing us to come. We want to thank Blackboard for inviting us. I have to say, I really like these kind of conferences. A little more than the really large ones where you get the people who have wrote a book and sold 300,000 copies. I like these because they're on the ground, you know, they're grassroots, where you get folks who are on the front line, you know, doing the here and now in education. Or often, you know, sometimes, you know, people who are working on the large work, they have to spend time working on the work. So sometimes they don't know what's happening in this ever-changing field. So I'm really, really honored and grateful to be here. And I got to say this too, I'm honored to stand shoulder to shoulder with my son, the greatest man alive, Principal Miller. This young man, just very impressive. Of course, to me, I'm his father, but let me just say this, watch out, education field. This young man has a full head of steam and is doing some great things. But we're hoping that from this talk today, you grab some morsel, something that you can take with you, something that will expand your thinking, something that will challenge an existing portion of your thinking, something that will confirm a new horizon you want to walk into, an idea, something. We're hoping you grab some morsel that can do what our mantra says, help educate, motivate, and help you grow so you can be even more excellent for your students. So I don't know, Principal Miller, anything you want to say before we get started, or you just want to jump in?
I'm just ready to go. Good morning to everybody and happy Friday. Here we are. It's 9 o'clock in the morning. I'm excited. I have my energy drink. I'm ready to go. So just ready to get started. Let's go.
All right. Well, I'm going to go ahead and share the screen for a second, you guys, and we'll get this party started. Let's see. Let's get over here to the presentation mode. And we should be ready to go. There you go. All right. So, ladies and gentlemen, our talk today, we want to talk to you about what a student likes or wants and versus what a student needs. And we want to get beyond that whole technology, using technology, going beyond Maslows. So again, if you guys are ready to go, let's go. So listen, I'm a lead faculty, and I get to lead the programs. Like I said, I get to lead the programs in the education studies programs and the teacher preparation programs at my university, University of Arizona Global Campus. Just for fun, myself and another faculty, we did a quick survey in some courses in our programs, and we simply asked, it was 78 students, we asked them, what do you really want from this course? I mean, just tell me what you want. What do you want from this course, this experience? Now, for you educators, I'm sorry to say to you that they didn't say, we want to dive deeper into the pedagogical and andragogical concepts that are principled in the syllabus and the content that you have listed. Now, they didn't give us answers like that. They just simply said, look here, I just want to pass this class. They said, listen, this is what the classes I got to take to graduation. I'm trying to get this degree so I can change my quality of living, get a better job, and do better things for my family. So just tell me what I need to do to pass this class, because it's in the way of my graduation, right? So that sparked some interest in me. I love that honesty, right? And I remembered me in college where that was pretty much what I was thinking. What do I need to do to pass so I can graduate, right? And I was thinking, so if I'm thinking this in education, my students are thinking this, what is the rest of the world, industry outside of education, thinking? So I went and looked up a survey from Fonolo Incorporated, who does a lot of consumer report type surveys. And they had a question where there was a company that sold a particular product. And I won't say what it is, but it sold millions of units, right? And continuously. And they surveyed the owners or the consumers that own that product. And they said, what do you really want from your service provider? Concerning this unit, this very popular unit, what do you really want from your service provider? And guess what those folks said? We just want to know how this thing works. How does it work? How can I use it to do what I needed to do, right? So I was like, boom, we have a parallel between education and industry outside of education. So wait a minute. If industry knows they have millions of products being sold and used at the same time, and they know that their consumers just want to know how to use it, then they must be thinking ahead and figuring out what can we do to help our users know how to use this product before they even ask us. So I said, well, let me find out what is industry kind of doing to help build in supports for those that are using their products, right, ahead of time. So I found quick start guides. You guys have seen them. You've seen the frequently asked question sheets where they ask people who have the product a question, and those who've used it, they answer the question, and they use those answers to tell people who are going to use the product how to use it or answer their questions before they even have the question. Those that are in the test prep arenas, I mean, you got education, you got law, you have the medical fields, actuarial science. Anyone that has to take a test to get their certification, there's test prep services that you can enroll in and begin preparing for the test before you even take all the courses and get to the point where you need the exam. Then we have companies, smart companies like Apple and a bunch of other companies who have, products, and they create a series of videos about that particular product. Anything you want to know about it, you can click right on their website and find anything about that product right in a video before you even know that product does that thing. And then my favorite, here's my favorite, YouTube. You got any YouTube favorites out there? I know we do, right? YouTube, man, you can fix a car, you can build a house, you can make a garden, or you can teach yourself algebra on YouTube, right there, right at your fingertips, right? So I began to think about it. Everyone else is doing this. everyone out there is figuring out how to answer questions that their consumers are having before they ask them so they can have a better experience with their service. Well, why can't I? Why don't we do that in education? Why do we have interventions, which means we have to wait until there's a problem before we come up with a solution? Why don't we create an accommodation package for our students so they know exactly what they're going to get before they get to our courses? Well, guess what? We can. Now, I know we've been through this time last year and a half. I like to call it the pandemic, the pandemonium phase that we faced over the last year and a half here in America, whether it was medical, whether it was political, whether it was social unrest, whether it had to do with racial identity or finances. I mean, we just went through pandemic, the pandemonium in the last year and a half, and teachers are drained. They are tired. They are some are unmotivated. We're seeing a mass exit from the education field. We're seeing early retirements, teacher shortages, people, but you're also at the same time seeing this concern from educators. I like to call them in my book, Why Some Seeds Don't Grow. I call them the chosen educators versus the ones who, the called educators versus the ones who just chose the field. There are serious concerns to want to make sure that students are getting all they can get. So I'm saying to you, if you want to motivate your students, take the lesson from industry and just help them win. Well, there's two things we could do to help them win. And you know what they are? Again, lesson from industry. Answer their questions before they ask it and meet their needs before they know they have it. And we don't have to be psychic to do this. And this is very, very, very powerful, especially for those that are called the at potential students. That's a coin that I phrase, and I like to call them at potential instead of at risk, or what's another one? Marginalized. There's a couple other terms. How about underserved, underrepresented? All of those terms approach identifying this group of students that otherwise need some extra support, or the environment or culture of education is not a standard for them, right? Those terms are all approaching these students from a deficit approach, a deficit point of view. Whereas the word at potential approaches them from an asset approach or a point of view. Right. So it's kind of like this. If I'm already a student, I already know I got to learn all the material. I got to do well in school. I got to manage my life so that I can get things done in school. And then I've got to be able to take this content and translate it into a skill that makes me competitive in this 21st century workforce. I already have all that in front of me. Now you, Mr. and Mrs. Educator, you're going to call me at risk. You're going to call me marginalized. You're going to call me underserved, underrepresented, which means now you're putting in my mind and putting in front of me a whole nother barrier, in addition to the things that I'm already going to face and to be competitive like everyone else. Now, I know you didn't mean any harm. You really just saying that this is the category of the class that I seem to fall in. And you're really saying that so that you can try to provide services or things of that sort. And I get that. But you put that whole concept that has a negative wall in my mind. And now I got to deal with it. You see, we forget that as educators, there's power in our tongue. Power, life, and death is in our tongue. So what we say really matters in our students. What we say might not manifest till 30 years down the road. But when we call our students at potential, we're approaching them from a deficit piece, and we're placing another barrier there in front of them. More importantly, look what we're doing. What we're speaking brings life to our own thoughts. So when I call a student at risk or marginalized, underrepresented, underserved, then I am bringing alive in my thoughts that student has, check it out, at risk, underrepresented, marginalized, underserved. I'm putting blinders on, so now my view of the possibilities that student has is even narrower. Because now I'm considering their barriers. I'm considering the statistics against them. Whereas if I say they're at potential, I remove the blinders and I say they're at a point where their potential can be released. Kind of like a peach seed. If I had a peach seed in my hand and I said, what do I have? You would say to me, you have a peach seed. And I would say that is a fact. But the truth of the matter is, what I have is a seed that if I place it in the right environment, in the soil, it'll draw the nutrients, the potassium, the phosphorus, the nitrogen, the water, the sunlight, and it will break open, grow root, sprout a tree that produces a fruit that has a seed that if I put in the right environment can break open, grow a root, sprout a tree, produce a fruit that has a seed, and that cycle can perpetuate. So my student is at potential because he's at a point of potential that even I don't know what he can produce or she can produce. So it's important that we change our vernacular. I'm sorry to sidetrack on that, but I just kind of felt that one a little bit, and hopefully you grab something out of that. But our at potential students in particular, they really benefit when we are forward thinking and able to ask questions and provide solutions to their needs before they know they have them. But what I wanted to say about our at potential students is that they bring a culture of wealth to the table in our classrooms, and very often we don't know that. So there was a study done, and this was actually kind of an analysis around the critical race theory. And this isn't a negative one side or the other. It's actually very good. So the resources at the bottom of the page, and I think you have access to this PowerPoint. I would read that study. It's a very interesting one. But these 6 categories of cultural wealth at potential students bring to the table. And what I'm saying to you, and this is one of the few times you'll hear me approach something from a negative or a deficit approach, is do not, by all means, do not minimize the cultural wealth of the at potential students you serve. If you do, you minimize them, you belittle them, you squash them, you push them aside, and you will see a wall go up. And that wall going up is a tragedy because now they can't receive from you, but more importantly, you can't receive from them. So I did a study, you guys. I know I'm talking fast, and I'm going to give you a lot. We're going to give you a fire hose today. And what I was doing was I was trying to find the factors that contribute to the success of men of color in online higher education programs. So I did a study with about 1,272 to be exact, but about 1,300 men of color that were all doing well in their programs, 3.0 or above, and they were persisting in their program at 125% rate or above, or better, right? So we considered them successful. That was our definition for successful. I want to know, what were they doing to obtain and maintain success in their program? Because we figured that up to now, we as the educators felt that we were in charge of helping our students to be successful, and it wasn't working because our men of color are the lowest performing subgroup from pre-K through graduate school, right? So we must not be doing something right. So I figured I'd do the study and say, well, what are you doing to be successful? That way, we could take what those successful men of color were doing, share it with every other student, and they could be more successful. They could take their own success into their own hands. So we did that. We found about 6 common techniques or methods that they use. And me being the good mathematician that I am, I have a math and science background as an engineer, I said, let me check the problem. So I took those techniques and methods and I surveyed 100 men of color who did not meet the definition to be successful, according to our study. And 75% of those men of color also used the same techniques and methods. So that meant the techniques and methods were not the major driver for success of those original 1,300 men of color. So I got a little upset right there. But I remember something my father taught me when I was young. He said, listen, son, if you're looking at something and it doesn't look right, before you throw it away, change your glasses, because it may not be the thing that has an issue. It just may be how you're looking at it. So I changed my point of view and I looked at the data more qualitatively, and boom, punched me in my nose. Something jumped off the table, punched me in my nose. I saw that 97.8% of those men of color, the 1,300 men of color, all operating the same 3 pillars of mind. And this was revolutionary. Change how I do. I'm like almost 30 years in this education game. This changed how I do education. This changed how I give and feed the students that I serve, right? So those 3 pillars of mine were very simple. 1, all of those men of color had a positive experience with their university. 2, they all were committed to personal goals. And 3, they all had obligations, but their obligations were their motivators. Now, that doesn't sound like much. Let me explain. The first one, the positive experience is very important for at potential populations, especially if you're talking about an urban or a rural population that has experienced any type of poverty, low income, or financial stress. They're going to see your school, whether it's K-12 or whether it's higher ed, they're going to see it as the system. They're going to see you as them, the man. I don't care who you are. This has nothing to do with color or race. This has all to do with social position, especially economics, right? So they're going to see you as them, right? And when they come to you, if they have a bad experience, then they're always going to expect a bad experience, which means, again, a wall goes up. They will never, ever be able to really yield from you holistically everything that you have to offer as a university, which I'm assuming is part of your mission. Okay, seems like we had a little technical difficulty. We jump back on now. Is it okay we just jump right back in where we were? So what we found was understanding how our students think, how at potential students think, those 3 pillars. It allows us to now flip the facilitation of their success back into our hands. So now when I'm saying facilitation, now there's a synergy between what they can do and what we can do to help them be successful. Remember, before we thought it was just us. That's why we did the study, to say, okay, what can you do to be successful? Now we're at a point where we're saying, okay, we understand how your thinking helps you be successful. So what can we do to help you think that way to be more successful in your endeavors? So here's what we did. We worked together with student services, advising, and academics, and we came up with a list of techniques and methods that we can use at the university to help our students operate in those 3 pillars of mind so they can be way more successful. And here are the top 5 methods that we've been using to serve at potential students. Course at a glance tables, which is basically a syllabus. It basically says what you need to do and how much time it's going to take. They can see it at a glance so they can prepare better. And you can see where it says pillars 1 and 2, we mapped those techniques and methods to those pillars. As far as the accommodations, I have to say this, in my programs, every instructor uses these 5 accommodations. Now, we use them differently according to our style, but we all use them. We all have introductory videos, and you know, we don't get all dressed up and dialed up and speak in a bunch of, school words as far as the videos. We just talk as human beings. We humanize ourselves. This is one of the chances we get to do that in our online courses. We all relax deadlines. So you know the 11:59 syndrome, right? Everything's due at 11:59 on whatever day. And I might not grade it. I don't know, for instance, ours is due 11:59 Monday night, but I'm probably not going to grade papers and stuff until Wednesday, Thursday, or whatever the case may be. What do I care whether a student's turned it in at 11:59 or whether they turned it in Wednesday, Thursday before I grade them? So we relax those deadlines because we understand students are doing their degree online for a purpose. And we want to help facilitate those life issues as well. We're more focused on getting quality work than we are on time work. So we talk with students and we work with them as far as deadlines are concerned. For instance, my students, I don't penalize. I have an unlimited relaxed deadline as long as we've talked ahead of time. We provide exemplars, an old K-12 trick. We want to show you those exemplars. What does an A paper or an A project look like? And we do that by providing a previous student work for them to examine. We give access to ourselves beyond that email and office phone. My students have my cell phone number. They can text me. You can use Google Talks. You can set up sites on social media that work with your course so you can have students have access to you at all times instead of making them wait and tread water for 24 hours, which is usually the standard time before we have to contact them. But that's 24 hours. They're out in the ocean treading water by themselves. I don't know about you. I might have sunk sometime in that 24 hours. And then we have I.F., which is simply teaching to mastery. So it's not over until the course is over. It's incomplete, not failed. So we provide feedback, formative feedback, and students are able to look at that formative feedback and take it in consideration and to resubmit their projects or their papers so that they can show mastery of the content. Because again, especially in the education arena, I want you to master this because you're going to be teachers one day. So I want you to know how to learn and master your content so you can do the same for your students. And there's a host of other methods and techniques that we use as well. So what I suggest you do is you find those techniques and methods that you're going to use that help students, encourage them, and stimulate them to operate in those 3 pillars of mind. Make a table, and in that table, make a chart so you can make sure that you are covering and pushing students to operate in those 3 pillars of mind as a standard in your course. And you can also see which of those pillars of mind you more focus on. As you can see, for me, it's more the commitment, because I believe that is the most important. So people ask me all the time after hearing this, they say, so what are good techniques and methods? What are the bad ones? What's the best ones? What's the worst ones? And I'm here to tell you, as long as your technique and method is pointing your students to operate in, encouraging them and stimulating them to operate in one of those 3 pillars of mind, it's a good technique or method. As long as it is. Now, if it isn't, then I wouldn't use it. But if it is, then use it. In essence, what I'm saying to you, if it doesn't incite, then don't invite. So,
all right. So we know, the different mindsets of our at potential learners and what they need and what we need to do on the university or in the schools to help implement these different methods so that we can use them to help these students win, right? But we also know that we're still faced with multiple challenges and barriers. But as educators, we are, that's what we got into this field to do, right? We're problem solvers. That's literally what we do all day. So that's our challenge, right? And there's something that Dr. New said at the beginning. He said, I get to do these things. And that's exactly what we're doing. We're called to do this, right? And we need to look at these challenges and these barriers as opportunities, not obligations. Okay, so we're going to learn some different things that we can do to help our students navigate over, under, and through these challenges and barriers. All right, so what are the challenges and barriers for our educators, right? So first of all, we need to have the training on the technology, right? We need to build that capacity using these online learning management systems, right? We need to develop and implement classroom management practices that are conducive for this online learning environment. A lot of us are coming from in-person teaching, and now we're online, and the classroom management looks different. So with time and with training, I think we can bridge that gap a little bit. All while teachers are trying to get to know their students, right? And that's the big one, right? In the classroom and in-person learning, it's easier to connect with the students. It's easier to learn more about the students on a personal level, and you can reach a larger group of students, and you can reach deeper into that student because you know that student. At the same time, our students are struggling to connect with their professor or their teacher, right, online. And the various learning environments are also a barrier, especially on the K-12 level where students they may have things going on in their background, maybe unclean, maybe a little loud, which makes them reluctant to engage in small group conversation or classroom or large classroom conversations. So they're struggling to do that as well. Another thing, our learners, especially when I was doing my online degree, I have 3 children, right? And there's small children running around. I don't know when the last time you guys had took children maybe to the grocery store or out to the park or anything, but it's tough to manage a couple things at the same time. And that's also a struggle or a barrier that our learners are going through online. Okay, so how do we help our at potential students over, under, and through these barriers, right? Next, we're going to look at a diagram, and I feel very passionately about this diagram, and I really think that this is part of the answer on how we engage this new generation to create buy-in to the content and help them be more successful. So first of all, we need to find a way to connect the content to the students' feelings, right? If you really take a broad look at the landscape right now, a lot of what our young students are engaged in and really connected to ties to their feelings, right? Think about the music that they listen to. They don't even really listen to the words of the songs, right? They're just listening for a vibe. They're listening for a feeling that they can get from that music. Their body art, their tattoos, their piercings, all of these things are expressions of their feeling, their clothes that they wear, their different hairstyles. Look at their social media posts, the things that they post on Facebook and Twitter and Instagram and Snapchat and this new TikTok thing. It's all about memes and skits and ways to engage their audience and connect with their audience in creative ways. So why can't we do that in the classroom? Why can't we do that in the in-person classroom or the online classroom? We have to find a way to ask these students, how do they feel about the content, right? And I find myself doing, even when I was in the classroom, I'm standing up in front and I'm spitting information at these students and I'm showing them different strategies and ways to attack a problem, but I never pause to ask the students, how do you feel about this? How does this make you feel? So what are some different ways that we can do this in the classroom? So there's one activity that I started doing a couple years ago when I was still in the classroom. And what I did was I had the students make a, so aside from, assessing them, the normal way, right? The standardized test or the common formative assessments that we give in the K-12 arena. One way that I encouraged my teammates to allow their students to be assessed was I had them make a mock Facebook post, right? And they looked at a topic and we talked about the topic, and then they went home and they created a mock Facebook post, right? And then they had to add the comments, right? But the comments had to attack that perspective from different angles and from different perspectives, right? So I was able to assess their learning because I first asked them how they felt about this content and then allowed them to express their knowledge creatively. I didn't put them in a box, right? I told them that there was no box and that you can express this any way you want, right? And you can attack this from multiple angles and perspectives. And they were able to grasp that concept. So I'm saying all that to say, this is how our students digest information now. It first starts with how they feel. If they are not passionate about it, if they are not connected to it, if they do not care about it, we need to find a way to bridge that for them. They're not going to be passionate about all of the information that they learn in school, but it's our way to help them to connect to it by tapping into those feelings. All right, so think about this. As the classroom teacher or as the professor or the educator, what do you actually know about the students that you're teaching? Right? What do you know about them? What are their interests? Right? One challenge that I give my staff every year is when they get their class list and they get time to get in and learn their students, we get a spreadsheet and we write down every student's name in their class. And then beside, we put 2 additional columns, and they are challenged to find 2 different things that they know about that student that have nothing to do with their academic successes or challenges. And that's always such a big thing, because what it's asking you to do is look beyond what they can do on paper. Look deeper into that student to see how you're going to engage them. What are their strengths and what are their challenges academically? And how can we bridge what we know about that kid personally to help address those challenges, right? Also tying in, what do we know about that kid's experiences to look at their background knowledge, right? What are they bringing into our classroom, right? One misconception that we often hear in education is that our students are a blank canvas, right? They're not a blank canvas in kindergarten or pre-K. They're never a blank canvas. They're always coming in with different experiences and different knowledge and different wonders and ideas about different things, right? They're creative when they walk in your classroom. It's your job to grow that creativity, to tap into that creativity in order to move them to a place where we want them to go. All right, so I'm telling you that, and I'm going to leave you with this, and then I'm going to pass it back to Dr. Newt. And if you can't relate to our children, you cannot differentiate your learning. So it's tough to educate this new generation of students.
Wow. Wow. That's all I can say right there is wow on that one. It's to pick up on that whole path of differentiation. That means that as educators, a cognitive shift has to happen in our mind. No longer are we walking in the classroom thinking, we're going to address this class of 30 students. No, now we have to walk into a classroom, whether it's face-to-face or whether it's online, and our mindset is we need to teach the student, not just the students. So you're saying, hold on, wait a minute. You must not know, Miller. You must not know what I have in my classroom. Well, that's not necessarily true. I spent my whole career in urban education or working with at-potential populations. So I know you have students that don't even prioritize school because they have life issues in front of them. You got students that have language barriers. You have students that are afraid to go home. Some don't even have a home. You have students that are doing their work on their cell phone, still writing lowercase i's in their discussion, or writing their whole paper on their cell phone, 2 pages long, and it's one giant paragraph. I know what you're dealing with. You're dealing with what's on this slide, right? And more probably. But I'm saying to you that those students, what about the student who? That's the reason why we're we're responsible for differentiating and scaffolding our instruction so that our students can all survive. You see, we have to look at our course rooms and classrooms differently, meaning this. We have to look at them so that we're creating highways and exit ramps. So we have a highway in our classroom where everyone can go along that path. Everyone can move along, traffic's moving, nothing's stopping them, just keep going forward, right? But every now and again, if you've ever been on a highway, you'll see an exit ramp. And people will get off those exit ramps for different reasons. Sometimes it's to get some more gas. Sometimes it's to use the restroom, maybe some food. Sometimes I just get off the exit just to stand up and stretch my legs or stretch my back and then jump right back on. No matter what, there has to be an exit ramp because people are going to need to use it. So as we create our course rooms, we're creating them with highways and exit ramps. There's times when we need to be together as a class and do some of the things listed here, talk about big ideas, might be a video you provide for everyone to watch to flip the classroom. I don't know, it could be a discussion that you use just to get ideas. It could be in a sharing or a presentation of products or projects, but there's also exit ramps that are needed. There's times when small groups are needed. There's times when you have people work as teams on projects. There's times where you have one-on-one conversations or office hours where you just know you're doing some work at your computer and you just say, hey, I'm available Tuesday night from 6 to 8, and whoever pops on, pops on. There needs to be exit ramps as well as highways, and that's how we can begin to differentiate. You see, what I'm saying is this. We've been through this time of pandemonium in this last year and a half, and there's been a heightened awareness of meeting Maslow's hierarchy needs in our students. And I'm not saying that we shouldn't do that. Yes, we need to do that. But on top of that, we got to move beyond Maslow's needs. We have to move beyond Maslow's needs because our students still need to be competitive. They still need to have a rigor so that they can take content and translate it into marketable skills to be competitive in the 21st century workforce. So we have to take Principal Miller's diagram and add another circle to complete the Venn diagram that he showed us from the beginning. So we can get to know our students and their feelings and their creativity and what they bring to the table. So we know what they like, we know what they want, but we have to add that next circle, the content. so that and create connectivity between all three. That way we get buy-in from our Gen Zs or at potentials, whoever we're serving. In essence, we have to flip the script, you guys. We're no longer the sage on the stage. We're no longer the thing that information is coming from. Now, as educators, we're facilitators. We're just facilitating the learning process. We're just helping it move along. But we can't help it move along unless we know more about our students, what they like and what they want, so we can connect that together and turn it into what they need. And you're saying, okay, so how am I going to do this? This is a lot of work. I mean, I remember having small groups in the classroom and 7 tables and having to go from table to table, and I'm exhausted. How can I do this now? You're telling me online that I can meet needs of individual students and they're not even in the classroom with me? Well, yeah, you can. That's what technology does. See, some folks say this: the technology has made learning easy and interactive and interesting. And that's true for some folks, but not for all. Let me just keep it real with you. In urban arenas, in rural arenas, in some low-income places, there's still a gigantic gap in technology, still a gigantic gap between connectivity and access and device updated, recency, which puts some barriers there in using technology, right? And that's the truth of the matter. But I also see from my seat, I see school districts, I see universities, I see local businesses and industries working very hard to put things in place to close that technology gap. I'm seeing community-wide hotspots. I'm seeing churches creating computer labs. I'm seeing schools taking advantage of grants, taking some of the relief funding and giving out one-to-one devices so students can connect. I'm seeing a lot of things going on. So we haven't closed all those gaps yet. But here's what I can say about technology. It makes it so that you as an educator can multitask. When you understand and learn how to, as Principal Miller said, get the training on the technology that's available to you, you can multitask right from your seat. There's a website up there, educatingalllearners.org, educatingalllearners.org. And I think you have access to this website. To this PowerPoint. That's a hot link. You can go on there and you will find a bunch of what I call ed tech tools that sync together with some of the fantastic classroom management systems like Blackboard. And you can use those tools right in your classroom to formatively assess students and get feedback right away. And not just feedback, but I like to call it a prescription of things you can do to help students meet equity of the mastery of the content that they seem to be having a rough time on from formative feedback. You can find accessibility ed tech tools. You can find ed tech tools that help with writing. You can find ed tech tools that help with our English language learners to jump over language barriers. There's ed tech tools to build connectivity and access to give, I'm going to call accountability to parents who are working their fingers to the bone and still have to try to pay attention to what's going on in school. Technology helps us multitask right from our seat, right from our device. We can manage tons of things. So I know technology seems like it's a barrier or it's tough to switch to this online learning environment because of the pandemic, the pandemonium situation we had. But I encourage you to think differently. The toothpaste is out the tube. We're not putting it back. I want you to see the positivity in this thing, that now, no matter whether you're dealing with a Gen Z population or at potential, post-traditional, traditional, to create connectivity between those populations such that their feelings, the creativity that they bring to the table, and the content that they need to learn so that Venn diagram is complete, you are the catalyst. You as educators are the catalyst. All you have to do is make it your point. Make it your business. Be invasive. Push yourself into the rooms where conversations are happening with those who are developing the ed tech applications, the UX designers, the classroom management system corporations. Get in those conversations with them, because you're the one that has the connection to what the student likes, what the student wants, and what the student needs. You're the one that knows how to deliver that pedagogically or andragogically. So you have to tell these ed tech apps folks, these UX designers, classroom management systems, what's needed, what it should look like, and how it should be used. So what I'm saying to you is this: you know what students like and what students want. Use that technology. Get involved with it. Make the necessary, have the conversation so the necessary adjustments can be made so that you can give the students what they need. So in recap, you guys, we talked today about a lot of stuff. We introduced to you 3 pillars of mind that we know are powerful in helping our apt potential students operate in a culture of success. So use techniques and methods that encourage and stimulate your apt potential populations to operate in those 3 pillars of mind.
And we know how to give our apt potential students the best shot at success, but we also know that there are going to be some different challenges, right? So it's our job to figure out how, as educators, we can learn to manage these classrooms, right, that are full of such diverse learners, and how can our students learn to engage in these environments so that they can be more conducive for learning.
And differentiation is the key to make that happen. I know it sounds like hard work. I know it sounds like a lot to do, but differentiation is the key. We have got to switch our minds as educators. We got to make that cognitive shift to teaching the student, not just the students.
And so how do we help facilitate this connection between how these students feel about the content to the mastery of the content, all while encouraging them to express this creatively? We have to let them do it their way, right? Whoever does the talking in the classroom is usually the one that's doing most learning. So it's our job to help bridge that gap between the students' feelings, the content, and their creativity.
And how do we do it? Because that's a tall order, especially if they're not in the room with you. Technology. Technology is that tool that clones you. It puts you in the household of all 30, 50, 60, 150, however many students you have. It puts you right in their household, sitting across that table or wherever it is that they're doing that work with you. You get the opportunity to individually meet the needs of each of your students at their point of need, to give them just what they want, just what they like, and just what they need, so you can do what we said we wanted to do for you: educate them, motivate them, and help them grow. You guys, I think that's all we have for you today. This is how you can contact us. My information is on the left-hand side, the left-hand slide of the slide. Principal Miller, his information is on the right-hand side. I think that's a Twitter. He's more involved in Twitter than me. I guess that's the younger generation. I'm still twiddling around with LinkedIn and Facebook. But you can email me, call me, whatever it is that you need or want. I don't know, Principal Miller, any last words?
No, sir. Just excited to be here, and I appreciate this opportunity.
Outstanding. So what we're going to do, you guys, I'm going to go ahead and stop the share. I don't know if there's anyone that has any questions that they would like to ask. I was not watching the chat, so we're open.
That was impressive. That was amazing. To quote you, wow, this is great. The chat is just exploding with energy that you put into this. So thank you both very much. We have a couple minutes, and I did capture one question that I'd like to just toss out to you from the chat. It was earlier when you were talking about the walls that are put up around students. And the question was, is there a way to detect confirmation biases that built that wall, or do we have to assume that's where we have to meet the students initially?
So that's a deep conversation, many points of it. But we have to always assume that there's some bias involved. I mean, we're human beings, so we have to always assume some bias is involved. And when we're looking at the walls that go up because of an experience that a student had or may not have, had. I like to teach folks to not focus as much on the differences that you have with the students, but focus on that common thing that you both want at that time. And that common thing is for you want the student to pass, you want the student to master the content, and they do too. So what I say as educators is go first, meaning this. I know, because I taught this course, you know, so many other times before or whatever grade, I kind of know some of the pitfalls. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to present to you an offering. I'm going to say to you, this is what I can do to help you out before you even start, to kind of break up the atmosphere so that those walls, if they've gone up, they can start to come down. And I believe that is the best way to kind of move forward without getting into the conversation talking about implicit biases, microaggressions, and things of that sort, which do exist. That's a whole nother conversation. We'd be glad to come back and talk about that if you'd like us to. But to start right now, what you can do globally, generically, is to focus on that common thing, and that's the student success. But that means you're going to have to go first. You're going to have to bow and say, this is what I can do to help you. And then step back as the student walks into the help. Anything to add to that, Principal Miller?
No, sir. I think you hit that one. But like you said, I would be interested in coming back and having that deeper conversation.
Absolutely. Well, I can tell from the chat that you now have a new legion of fans, and those people are global. We've got lots of folks from around the world watching this today. So I greatly appreciate your insights. You've pumped a lot of energy into the start of an informative day for everybody. And so I want to ask everybody to just give them that virtual round of applause and say thank you again for those powerful words.
And Rob, can I say one more thing before we go?
Absolutely.
So I know that we're starting off your symposium for today, and it's a free symposium, and thank you for offering to that as educators, to us as educators. So I want to encourage and employ, I want to challenge, that's the word I want to use. I want to challenge each and every one of you who are watching this, going to pop in and out throughout the day, to really do it. You know what I mean? Because like I said, you're going to get information from folks who are on the ground, on the front line, who kind of know what's really happening, and you will walk away from here with some great ideas and some great things. So I challenge you to, really, really check in on what's being offered today, because you know how it works. We'll say we're gonna watch the recording, and that never happens. So play it in the background, put it in your earphones, whatever we could do to do that. And I just want to give a good shout out to my son. Thanks again for helping me with this. Again, that's the greatest man alive you guys are looking at right there.
That's awesome. Thank you both.